What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Tim Talks, the real estate show where we talk about real estate, life, and a little bit of everything else. Ethan, let's hit the intro music. Thank you so much for being with us this week for another episode of Tim Talks. This week is a special episode. We are back with our guests. We kind of took a little bit of a break from guests as we transitioned from our co-hosts leaving the show to her different company. Sadly, we'll miss her. Ashley, we miss you. Please come back. We had Ethan Peanut Butter Boy on last week, but this week we're bringing in a special guest from the George Fox University, one of my mentors slash, technically speaking, my boss.
Some small way.
He is the head cross-country coach at George Fox University. My former coach at George Fox. I've mentioned on this show a few times that I ran cross-country and track and field at George Fox. I'm an assistant coach there now with Coach Mike. Mike Wilson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you on the show. Definitely somebody who I wanted to get on the show for a while because you have experience basically running an organization, right? You had, 10 years of coaching experience back east. Then you kind of infiltrated Michigan for a bit, the University of Michigan as an assistant coach there. And now you run things here at George Fox for the cross country program. And might I say have done a very good job doing so, taking the team to, to new heights that we never thought would occur in this program. So congratulations, first of all.
Well, thank you. I guess this better be good then. You're really buttering me up here. I don't know.
I had a few questions for you today, and I wanted to bring you on the show because, like I said, you run an organization, and a lot of my listeners out here are interested in real estate, disclaimer here, we're not going to talk about real estate today, but we're going to talk about the different things that impact organizations, which directly impact things like a business such as real estate. Sure. And so my listeners can take away a lot of things of what you're going to have for them today. One thing I really wanted to talk about today was motivation and leadership, because that's what you deal with every single day. It's probably one of the biggest pieces of your job, is to not only find motivation for your athletes, but find motivation for yourself, find leadership. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about motivation, first of all. Sure. For yourself, because you are running this organization, you're running this team, but that has to start with you yourself. You can't motivate others without being motivated yourself first. So what gets you up in the morning? What motivates you every day as a leader?
Wow. Start with the nice and easy questions here.
Small talk.
Yeah. Wow. There's so many things. I mean, I feel like in coaching and with other coaches within our department or within the university as a whole, we're constantly talking about motivation. How do you motivate your athletes? How do you stay on top of your field, on the edge of whatever science is coming out or whatever learning can be happening? But I think if you want to boil it all down, it's going to come to hope, simply and purely. At some point, you're hoping to have an impact on the lives of the athletes that you work with. You hope that they're going to be better athletes, but also better people when they leave. So the motivation to get up and to do well on any given day for me starts there. I walk into practices hoping that we have a good day, hoping that, I get to connect with this athlete because, I'm checking on him, making sure that, such a thing is going well in his life, and, hoping that the practice goes well for this athlete because we're working on a confidence piece and we're hoping that, they can just access the talent that they have. So motivation starts with hope in some regards of kind of boiling down to what are you hoping for, maybe athletically or talent-wise, or goals that you're after as an athlete on the course. But like you said, that kind of starts with us. As coaches, we want to win. We want to see our teams do well. We have big hopes and aspirations. We want to go after it in terms of a competitive sense. But that has to start with the relationship that you have with your team and that you have with the athletes on an individual basis. If you're talking about it, it really does boil down to what is your connection with each individual? How are you going about that process? And so my motivation to get up in the morning is to see if I can do that better today. Yeah. See if I can engage this athlete. We're at a point in our season where our season's finished. We're kind of making a transition and a change to the next season. And so I'm sitting down with every single one of our athletes right now and going through, hey, what are your hopes for the coming year? What went well in this past season? What can we do better? And that's not just athletic, but personal. And so we start there for sure.
I love that. I want to really zero in on that hope, because I think for so many of you out there listening, that is a big piece of your motivation to do what you do. I mean, if you are a real estate agent, if you are a lender, if you are a, insurance agent, right? Any, entrepreneurial endeavor that you take is based on that same hope, that same motivation of, can I be better than I was the day before? Can I create a future for myself? Can I create a future for the people that I'm working with? A lot of it's based on hope. I want to ask you a little bit further about that. How do you separate the hope that you have for the motivation that you have for yourself, the hope that you have for yourself and for your goals along with for your team? How do you separate that from an athlete's hope, an athlete's goal, right? How do you differentiate between the two? Because you could have, I want to, I want to close 17 transactions this year, but the clients that I'm working with, they might not be in that spot. They might not be ready yet, right? You might have 7 athletes who you really know can be All-Americans,
right,
but they're not there yet. How do you differentiate between your hope versus their hope?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm not even certain that you're entirely differentiating. I think if you're talking about an organization that's going to pull on a client in the greater sense of, I have a business, I'm interested in pulling this person in, there has to be an aligning of hope at some point. It might not be the same goal. If I'm in real estate, I'm trying to, sell a certain number or make a certain number of transactions. Your client's goal is not that. Your client's goal is to land a house. That's what he or she wants. And I think that's not any different in terms of working with athletes in a different type of organization. They have different hopes and goals than I do. They might not be worried about winning a team title right now. They might just be trying to get a PR or a conference medal. But how can you kind of come alongside and align hope is part of the process of how I'll step back and go, okay, one of the reasons it's so important to get to know your client, or in my role, to get to know my athlete, is to figure out what are their hopes. Because if you can kind of figure out how to align their hopes with yours,
bam, nail on the head.
That's when you start to see progress. Or you start to pull them into a vision that they don't even have yet for themselves. You, as the leader of an organization, can see more of what's ahead than they can. It's just the nature of being upfront. If you're leading, hopefully you've been down this path before, or at least have a better idea of where this path goes, and they might not even have a concept for it yet. So you have to both create vision while pulling in what they are hoping for already in the raw, and try to get those things to align well with what it is that you're personally hoping for. And sometimes for me, I have to put my own hopes on pause or on delay. I can't be worried about it happening right now because that athlete isn't ready to be on level 15 or on level 3. And we've got to take the steps through levels 4, 5, and 6. But because I'm up front, I can see and maintain my own hope in that because I understand levels 4, 5, and 6 and have seen other athletes progress through them. So it's just aligning their hopes, casting some vision, and trying to direct that ship in the direction you want it to go.
Absolutely. I love what you said about listening as well. I think that's really important. I think that it's service, right? We can remember back to Craig's episode where we talked with Craig Inglesby, who also works in the athletic department at George Fox. He talked a lot about service and what true service means. Yeah. I think listening really is a service. And so a great piece, I think, of what you do in providing hope to your athletes is a service, and that is listening to them and understanding what they want to do. That's really, really, really important, especially, in different organizations such as, real estate or, lending, whatever you want it to be, financial planning, I see that a lot. You have to listen to what the goals of your clients, athletes, whatever it is, you You have to listen to that, because if you're not listening and you're just kind of going where you think is best, or where, you know, your vision is, without kind of, you said aligning, right? Without aligning, then one of the two is going to get left in the wrong place, and that's just a really uncomfortable spot to be in. People get upset when that happens.
Yeah, this is recruiting in my world, right? If you don't listen and you just have an agenda, here's the hope and goal that I have, and you're marching straight forward with that, you're going to miss the opportunity to pull people into your vision, because you're not hearing what they're saying and you don't understand their hope and their goals. And if you're serious about leading an organization and you don't know how to serve and you don't know how to listen, you're going to fail. You have to be able to pause that and understand that in order to lead well, it starts with serving, it starts with listening, and then you can cast hope and vision, but only once you have somebody's attention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Shifting a bit, but kind of staying on the same track of motivation. We talked about your motivation and what gets you up in the morning and what drives you. You work in a sport, in an event that is pure pain,
I
right?
already know where this is going.
It is difficult. It is trying. It is a mental battle.
Yeah.
It is a real journey. I talk to my clients, and I hear other people in my profession talk to my clients about the buying process, the selling process being like a marathon race. It is a test of endurance. It is a test of just, you know, can I stay patient? Can I stay brave when it gets tough? I mean, your three, give them your three race strategies, right? Patient, brave, balls to the wall.
Yeah, bring it home, right?
Yeah.
We say it a little differently with the women's group, but sure.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. Gotta stay PC.
No, it's fine. It's a real thing.
Yeah. But you know, patience, brave, and then, you know, let them have it in that last mile, right?
Yeah.
I tell my clients really the same thing in the buying and selling process is, you know, we have to stay patient, and it's going to get tough. We're going to have hurdles we're going to have to overcome. And then we're really going to make a push at the end, and we're going to get this thing closed for you. And we're going to get you the best possible deal that you could ever imagine. Right. There's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a parallel to be drawn between the two. And I use it as an example to my clients because it is a test of endurance, right? So how do you motivate your athletes to get through this mental test of endurance, not just a race, but the sport in general? I mean, I tell my clients, you know, obviously at the end for them, they're going to get a house, right? Or they're going to sell their house. They're going to make a lot of money, right? But in a sport where, you know, it's a finish line, right? No one hands you a house at the finish line, right? You know what?
Nice.
Yeah,
right. A lot more runners.
That'd be great. I think I would have been a lot faster in college.
People would be really good if we could have that. Seems like an NCAA violation, though.
Probably somewhere. Hopefully the NCAA is not listening to this. They're I can guarantee you they're not. But where does that motivation piece come in for you to get people to do something that is going to be difficult, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's always the carrot on stick kind of things of, you know, they want achievement, they want medals, they want to be a national level athlete or whatever their end goal is. But that's not enough. I think for you to really want to suffer in the sport of distance running, or, you know, hey, I got to be patient in the process of buying a house, or this is a new startup business and it's going to take a while till we really see some big capital gains happening here.
That's huge. I want you to expound on that further, because that's a huge piece.
It's going to take a second. You have to be patient. And so being able to sit back with an athlete and go, hey, this is going to take time. And in order for you to achieve what it is that you're after and that you're hoping for, we have to step back away from the end result and talk about the process. In our team, we're constantly talking about their character. Who are you? And how does that define your process? In a business organization or in leadership as a whole, when you're working with a client, what you're trying to do is just simply build connection, because people respond to people. Right? I think it's the Simon Sinek model of people are going to respond to your why, not necessarily to how you go about your process,
Absolutely.
but why you do it.
Right.
And I think for our group, they respond to where the character development pieces that we're putting into place. They want to be better human beings. They want to be better athletes. They want to grow in the course of the time they're in this process, which can be 4 years long before they achieve some of their goals. And they might not get to all of their goals. That's a reality sometimes. You might not get the exact house that you have in mind. But, it's where are we willing to kind of jump in and figure it out? And how do you come alongside of your client, or in my particular piece, how do I come alongside my athlete in the process and get to know them? Because as soon as they feel like they are working with you in that process and going towards something together, now they feel a lot safer in that process, and they're willing to take steps, and they're willing to risk things, and they're willing to try something that's scary or hard or could risk failure or pain and suffering in our sport quite a bit. You don't do that stuff if you don't have a group around you telling you, hey, you got this, and we believe that you have this, and we're here for you while you do it. When we're recruiting, we're constantly talking about, hey, it's cool, you run fast. That's a big important piece. Let's not get that wrong. Just like with you and a client, like, hey, the house is the end goal.
Right.
Like, let's not kid ourselves. But there's also do you want to work with me? Like, do you want to work with this team? Do you want to be formed in this way? Because if the answer is no, like, you're just the wrong team for you. Yeah. And so being able to kind of create a vision where they feel like this is going to be a parallel motivation factor for them. They can be motivated in this environment that we've created for them. That's where it's going to come. It comes from the environment that you create.
Oh, yeah. For those of you listening who work in the real estate field, lending, whatever it may be, I want you to take out the word athlete or runner and replace it with what you do. Because what he just said is exactly what you are going to experience within your organization as someone who's starting out in this business, right? I love what you said about patience. Taking time. So many people want the overnight results. You're going to get those like 6'11" kids that like play basketball for one season and immediately have 3 D1 offers, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case in running, really. I mean, you have some kids with some ridiculous natural talent, but for a lot of these people, it's, 10 years of running that got them to this point.
Right.
Same thing for people trying to build their business. I mean, you're not going to see a return on your investment for 2 years. Right. It's going to take time. It's going to take trust the process. I hate saying that, but you have to trust the process. And
it's going to take resilience.
Right.
And if you don't have it, it might just not be for you in some regards. So you, hopefully that's a motivating piece in and of itself, is like, if you can push through and understand why you're doing what you're doing, and it's not just some sort of, I want to make a lot of money. Like, that's a result, right?
Yeah.
If the result orientation for our group is, I want this medal, cool, I would like an Olympic gold medal too, but I'm not willing to do the work to get there. I also don't have the talent to get there. But
well, actually, hold on. I wanted to, because I actually quoted that to one of our office employees the other day. And I want you to, because I think you actually introduced this idea to me. You told me that athletes will come into your office and say, I want to be an Olympic athlete.
And I'll say no.
And you say, no, you don't. Right. I remember you. And that's so, because you hear every coach say, you could do whatever you want to do. You could be. Yeah. No, you don't. Because you don't want to put in the work that you are going to have to put in to become an Olympic athlete. And I think that's really important to understand, is there are so many people out there who say, I want to make $500,000 a year selling real estate. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you want to make $60,000 because you want to go home every weekend and spend time with your family, right? Like there are sacrifices that have to be made, and I think that's a huge piece of it. Is and touch further on that, because there is a decision that has to be made there to go harder and farther than anyone else is willing to get to what your goal is.
Yeah, and sometimes it's smarter, not harder in some regards, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, to give you your exact example, we'll have athletes that walk into the office and, oh, my dream is to make the Olympics, and okay, cool, like that is a dream. That is a dream that a lot of people have. I have that dream, but that ship has sailed. So like, I can envision myself winning as many gold medals as I want out on the run. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be seeing, holding the American flag, walking into the games. And so we'll just tell them, like, is that actually what you want? And if so, like, do you have a tenth of the work ethic required to get there? And often in working through that, I'll just tell them, no, you don't. And they'll look at you like, oh my gosh, you're stepping on my dreams. And I'm like, yeah, you're dang right I am. Like, you haven't shown that you have the ability to take care of your nutrition and go to sleep at a reasonable time and put in 110-mile weeks and work at this level
without breaking.
That it requires without breaking. And you know what? You just might not have the starting line. Self-awareness is a big piece of the equation. If you aren't aware of where you are strong and where you are weak, that's a problem in leadership. And so, especially if you're new to an organization or building an organization for the first time, you really want to become or put yourself in situations where you can become as self-aware as possible of where your blind spots are and where your starting lines are, where your strengths lie, so that you can access your strengths and put some people around you who are good at doing what you are not good at. I mean, you and I have that relationship already, right? I am horrible with media stuff. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. I don't get it. I don't know what the kids are doing these days. You follow that stuff. So It's like, hey, I want to jump in and help out with a team in this. Abso-freaking-lutely. That is perfect. That's me covering a blind spot in my own leadership.
That's really good.
And allowing someone else who has a strength there to help build something else. If you're trying to build your own empire by yourself, it can be done. It's just a lot harder and a lot more likely to fail.
Sure. And I mean, at a certain point, some of it's just, it's ego, right? You think you can do it all yourself, and it's kind of a power thing as well. You want control over everything else. That's so true. You have to surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up. That's why Ethan's recording this right now, not me, because I don't know jack about cameras and how to work them, right? But he's uplifting my business in ways that I could never do on my own, right?
Sure.
And so I think that's absolutely 100% true. And I think it's a little bit of it is taking a little bit of control out of your hands. Trusting, right? That's a huge piece of it. That trust piece, that leaning on others, that's a huge piece of the equation.
See, you know how to put that on Instagram, and I would.
Yes. Speaking of social media, that will be up there.
Excellent.
Just real quick, can you give me 3 of your most important leadership qualities, just in any situation in life?
Wow. Are we talking personal or just kind of like in general what I see great leaders do?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It doesn't have to be too specific to a situation, but just like, kind of how we talked about our values at the beginning of the year. Remember, like humility, whatever, perseverance, like that kind of stuff. Like what characteristics or traits, values do you see as the most important for a good leader?
Yeah, I think the self-awareness piece that maybe we touched on just a minute ago is a massive starting point, because otherwise you're going to be a little windblown. If you're starting an organization or you're coming up against failure, which you're going to do at some point, you're going to have, in my world, an athlete who doesn't perform as well as you were hoping they would, or they're just not taking to your training, or maybe they just don't like you, or something's not going well. It's gonna happen. I have 55 athletes on a roster right now. Not every single one of them is going to have this magical day on the perfect time, and I can take that personally sometimes, like, oh man, am I doing something wrong here? And you have to be self-aware enough to know whether or not it's you or it's them, or is it us? Trying to figure out what is the next step. Otherwise, you're going to run up against doubt, and doubt is going to start winning over hope. And you're going to start going, well, am I even in the right field? Am I even capable of starting this business? Am I even motivated enough? And then you start comparing to, well, so-and-so's done it this way. And that gets dangerous. You start going down this rough slope of comparison. So self-awareness is kind of that check of sitting back and going, no, I am good at this. These are some strengths I have. Yeah, I'm really bad at this, but you know what I have? Let me figure out how to curb that. Let me figure out how to pull this person in and maybe boost this person up to be able to fill that space for me a little bit. I think that goes hand in hand with just one of the ones that I would consider in our sport. One of the things I personally try to do is maximize potential, right? That's huge for me. I want to maximize the potential of an athlete by trying to break down individually, what does this particular person need? You know, if they need this, but this person over here needs something else, I've got to take that into account and really be able to see that. So that maximizing potential is huge. And being able to kind of step into that space and understand how to do that takes some diligence on your part to understand the X's and O's of our playbook, if you will. Sure. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing. So self-awareness is huge. Maximizing your own learning potential and realizing you don't know anything. If you get to a point in your business where you're like, I have everything figured out, you need to step back for a minute and go and try to talk to somebody who
get some self-awareness.
Because you see this a lot. Like you get a little bit of puffed up on you. Oh, I learned this thing and now I need everybody else to know it. And it feels good when people go, oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's right. I knew something that you didn't.
You'll be humbled real quick.
You will. And so that brings up the humility piece. Like, are you humble enough to understand I am still in process? I am still learning. I can learn from my athletes. I can learn from my clients. I can take critical feedback and make it work for me rather than sit here and be offended by it.
Absolutely.
So self-awareness, maximizing some potential, humility, trusting the people that are around you. These are all attributes of really good leaders and understanding how to go about that process.
The humility piece, I think, is super, super important because humility can feel like a step backwards. It does feel like a step backwards.
It can. Yeah, it hurts.
But it's actually probably one of the biggest proponents of growth. Because when you're humble towards others and say, I messed up, or I didn't know the answer to that, that builds a huge bond of trust with the other person. And that is actually what I hear clients tell me is one of the biggest things that they like about working with me is that when I don't know the answer, I'll be like, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to go find who does know the answer. I'm going to go figure it out, but I don't know the answer. Or if something does, God forbid, go wrong, hey, that's on me. That's my bad. Should have known better than to do that, right? Another piece to the equation is along the lines of the self-awareness. It's important, self-awareness and humility kind of combined. It's important to, I think, as well to be humble, even when you don't feel like it's a moment where you need to be humble, right? So if you are kind of feeling that, I closed 3 deals this month, whatever, like I'm feeling I'm riding on my high horse a little bit.
Right.
I think I know everything. I'm going to conquer the world, right? I'm up here on my pedestal, right? I think that's when you have to be self-aware enough to kind of bring yourself back down to earth, right? I'll see this a lot of times with some of our athletes is, 2 PRs in 2 races. Whoa, look at me, woo, right? I'm a hot shot right now. Woo, all Americans calling my name, right? Those are the moments, and then sometimes they get humbled, Race number 3 hits a little different, right? I think it's really important to kind of bring yourself back down to earth and be humble with yourself, right? You might not be, spraying that out to everybody else that you're talking to, but inside it's happening. Sure. And it's really important, I think, to kind of rein yourself back in, bring that humility piece to yourself and remember, okay, I don't have it all figured out, right? Just keep myself level-headed. Time to learn more. So,
and in my sport or in coaching in general, I think there's a piece of it that is you are modeling for them what you hope is true within the whole of your team. If I model, hey, guys, I messed that up, it also gives them permission to say, wow, I messed some stuff up too, rather than having to feel perfect. Because if we give off an appearance as leaders of I have everything figured out, I am perfect and you need to get on my level, it just breeds anxiety and stress.
Yep.
And I just don't, I don't want to let you down kind of mentality, which really isn't freeing, right? If you allow your client or your athlete, in my case, to see your humanity and you essentially model for them what it looks like.
Some vulnerability in there.
Yeah, it's very vulnerable, right? But that allows them to feel safe. And like you said, it builds that trust bond a lot closer because they realize in you doing that, oh, wow, like I don't have everything figured out. Even if they're still giving you that outward face of like, oh, yeah, it's on you. you have to be patient, right?
Yeah.
And understand like, yeah, these individuals don't have everything figured out either. None of us do. We're all still in process and we're all still learning. As a leader, if you're modeling that for the people who are following you, it gives them permission to be a lot more free and it gives them permission to fail and to like learn and to grow. And if they're doing that well, you're going to be moving toward the end results that you're after.
That's huge. Yeah, that is huge. I think you absolutely have hit the nail on the head. That piece of trust is really big. I think I've seen it, when you kind of, I don't know if we're letting down the wall is kind of the right way to put it, but like, hey, open yourself up. Hey, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm going through right now. Hey, I'm messed up with this. I'm sorry. This is not where I want it to be right now. That's on me. That's where people really start to perk up and listen to what you're saying because they're like, oh, wow, this guy's actually real. He's not just he's not a robot. And that allows, like you said, it allows me to feel like I can, mess up without the world ending. The anxiety piece comes down and there's a lot more peace within the group, a lot more synergy, I think. So,
yeah. And if you can balance well in leadership, being relatable, being someone that they can connect with while also providing direction and strength in the direction you're going, you're going to be onto something because people are coming to you in a leadership role because they assume, hopefully rightly, that you know more than they do about the subject matter and that you can help them get to whatever their end goal is. Right. And so they're relying on you. And so you choose carefully and purposefully when to be vulnerable and how to relate to an athlete and when to move them forward with strength and hey, like this is the direction we're going. Otherwise you run into it gets stagnant in either direction. If you're only trying to push the ship, well, people aren't getting on board because they don't feel like they connect with you. And if you're only connecting, but you provide no direction, cool, we can sit here and sing Kumbaya, but we need to go somewhere too.
Oh, 100%.
So if you can balance those things, and that's where the learning piece is constantly important, you have to constantly be refining. So that goes all the way back to the beginning. What motivates me? How can I keep refining that process every single day? Because the more I get into it and the better I get at it, hopefully the better the organization flows. And for me, the better the culture of my team flows throughout the course of a season. Yeah,
it's all connected. It's all connected. That's awesome. I think we've kind of come full circle on things and there's a lot more to go into, and I think we could take forever to just kind of unpack it all. But unless you had anything to add to, I think that's really just a solid, a few solid nuggets for our listeners to take away. Any last bits to add?
I don't think so. This has been great. I appreciate you having me on. I mean, I guess the last thing I would say is a little shout out to my own teams. Like I've learned a lot from them this year. Excited to keep rolling forward with them. And, it's been a privilege to work at George Fox and with this team. So they're doing some cool stuff. I'm not going to pretend like, I'm the magic ingredient. They're the magic ingredients working hard together. And
you are the chef.
So trying to build that synergy. That's all I'm trying to do. So a little shout out to them. They've done it really well. And I'm excited to see where it keeps going. Yeah, it is. It's a lot more fun when it's a special group of people. Definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been really wonderful. And there's a lot of things that I learned obviously, and I'll be pulling these out and, sharing with as many people as I can. But thank you so much for being here and for your time. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, word of the day. Synergy. I just pulled.
Very good. Very good. That's what I always do. I ask people the word of the day and they like the panic hits their eyes.
I'm like, oh, just drop that word. And it's like, oh man, I haven't pulled that one out of the vocabulary for a while. I like it.
That's good. I love it. All right. Number
14.
very good. 62.
62.
I feel like I always put a 2 in there.
You always
Do I
put a
always
2.
put a 2 in there? 72 last week, wasn't it?
I usually put a
think it
7
was.
in there, so I 17 might have been a better one.
Well, that's good.
That's
No,
fine.
you said 14?
14 is good.
That's a good number.
It's double varsity.
That's a solid number. All right. Thank you so much for joining us this week for yet another episode of Tim Talks. You guys know the drill. We will be back next week, and we will hopefully have another special guest for you. We are going to be working, as we mentioned last episode, we are going to be working in our focus corner every last episode of the month. So be looking forward to that. If you are listening on Spotify or YouTube, make sure to drop us a follow, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. You guys know the drill. If you're seeing us on Instagram, go ahead and share us, drop us a like or a comment. We will be back next week. And Ethan, we'll roll the outro music.